When it comes to the 8-bit systems, Nintendo had a lock on first place. But what was Sega offering? I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today we look at a Sega Master System showcase.
Second Opinion Games.
Action Fighter is a pretty sweet Spy Hunter clone. Instead of having a high and low gear though, you push forward to move faster and faster and pull back to slow down. And you're going to want to take good use of this because you are very vulnerable right off the start. If you touch the side of the road the tiniest bit, you will explode and die. If you hit any other car or motorcycle on the screen, you will explode and die. So just surviving for just a couple of seconds feels like it's nearly impossible. But it won't be too long till that Sega van pulls up and you slide on in the back, aka just like Spy Hunter, and then level up your weapon that lets you take down nearly everything in one shot. And then you'll be able to hold your own long enough to transform into a car. That's right, now you can finally tap people and not explode on impact immediately. But if you still hit the railing, you will explode and die. Pick up a few more letters and now your car will take off and fly, and you are playing a full-fledged Xevious clone. And it's also going to be really hard when you eventually do bite the bullet, because then your weapons are going to be downgraded some more, and it's going to be harder than heck to clear these levels. Action Fighter is a very solid game, even though that learning curve can be crushingly difficult. Sega's first mascot, Alex Kidd, had plenty of games, but I really like Alex Kidd in Shinobi World because there's ninjas everywhere, and anytime you have added ninjas, there's gonna be added fun. Now, Alex Kidd has a sword, which he can use to hack and slash ninjas down, but they have throwing stars and sometimes even throwing boomerangs to fight against you, so you have to really learn the patterns and how to take down all the different ninjas in this game. Also, you can power up your sword to be a bit stronger, and you have to really deliberately plan every way you make it through the level, because if you get hit too many times, you will die, and die again, because this is punishingly difficult. You also have a few ninja skills up your sleeves, and the boss battles can be really tough, even if most of them are just running at them as fast as you can and just try and hack them down to size. And I mean down to size, because you can hack them into even little tiny bits and small and tiny and stuff. This is a pretty fun action platformer game. If you are a fan of Kung Fu Masters, then check out Black Belt, a game where you can punch and kick people until they explode in the little tiny bits. This is a little over the top. There's also some mid-level bosses sprinkled here throughout. Some of them look like chefs throwing knives or Vega from Street Fighter 2. If you make it to the end of the level, the screen will zoom in a little bit farther, and then you can fight the main boss of the stage in a more one-on-one fighting style. It's nothing too elaborate though. Usually it just revolves around you jump kicking your enemy to death. In the end, this is a suitable Kung Fu Master clone, even if the controls aren't as tight as that game, but the music still rocks. While we're on the beat-em-ups, check out Dynamite Ducks, a game where your girlfriend is stolen and you're changed into a duck for some strange reason. Now, this is similar to Double Dragon, but instead of punching all your enemies to death multiple times, you only have to hit them just once. You could also pick up weapons along the way. It starts simple like throwing some rocks or throwing bombs, but you could also pick up machine guns to completely level the playing field. There'll be plenty of bosses sprinkled throughout every single level of the game, and most of them aren't too difficult until you get to this one rock monster that is freaking nearly impossible. But if you happen to clear that, the level difficulty goes right back to normal and you go back to punching every one of these cute little animals in the face. Hey, I wonder if these also used to be people. Boy, that would just sort of make you some type of mass serial killer or something. It's probably best not to think too much about this one, especially if you rescue your girl and stay a duck. There'll probably be some weird, freaky stuff then. This is a fantastic beat 'em up for this fantastic system. There are plenty of great sports games for the Master System as well. Except when I say great, I just mean they have the word great in the title. If you have to put great in the title of your game, chances are that game is completely trash. So forget all of those and play Joe Montana Football instead. It's sort of like Techno Bowl from the Nintendo, but done slightly different. There's no music in the background, kicking is horrendously awful and seems to be on autopilot or something, and the passing game feels completely fine because it's Joe Montana. If anyone knows anything about passing, of course it's gonna be him. The running game is sort of alright, but who cares about the run when you could throw with a rocket arm across the entire field? Pick up some first downs on nearly every play. Also, when you score a touchdown, your character does a really cool dance, and I found when you're playing defense, if you pick prevent, you will stop your opponent nearly every time because yeah, you want to prevent them from scoring. It's flawless. What could possibly go wrong? Joe Montana's Football is the only football game you need for this console. Line of Fire is a strangely interesting vertical shooter where you drive a Jeep with a machine gun. You could run over your enemies, and if they're in tanks, well, then you could just shoot them with your normal machine gun. You also have missiles to take out those aerial targets, and when you fire them off, you can control them a little bit by pushing left or right on the controller, which also moves your Jeep around. Luckily, there's no one-hit kills here, and you have a life bar that you could sustain a pretty heavy amount of damage before you finally die. But one of the things I really love about this game is the jumps. You can hit some sweet jumps, Dukes of Hazzard style, and blow up your enemies in the air with your machine gun then. And I really like how simple this whole game premise is. It seems to go together perfectly for what the Sega Master System could do, and it's just a blast to play. And I mean blast as in blasting helicopters out of the air with your machine guns. Rambo had a few games too. One of them was a light gun shooter, and the other one is an Ikari Warriors clone, where you play as Rambo in the jungles of probably Vietnam, rescuing hostages that give you weapons, and you could fire your arrows for explosive effect, but you're gonna want to save them for different bosses and to rescue those hostages. Most of the time, you're just running and gunning your way through the level. You can get an extension on your bullets that makes you shoot just a little bit farther, and boy is that ever a big help. Overall, this game is painfully slow to play and meticulous because you have to move just inch by inch up that screen and dodge bullets as you do it if you want to get anywhere in this game. Overall, it's an average experience. Rastan is another arcade experience brought home nearly flawlessly. This is a fairly fun game, definitely a mock-up of Conan the Barbarian himself, right down to the way he holds his sword, which you could also power up to get a battle axe or a mace. This is fun for nearly everyone that plays it as you run from left to right, destroying every single enemy you see. You could also swing from vines like Pitfall Harry or something. I don't know what they were thinking here, but the game is fun straight through to the end, even if it just makes me feel like I'm playing a Conan game, which it probably should have been called if they could have afforded the license. Sonic the Hedgehog got a good port for the system, and by port I mean a completely different game. Sonic himself is the same, running and collecting rings, but the game is completely different. Some of the levels might have the same names, but that's about it. The overall structure of the game is not there. And also, when you pick up the rings and get hit, you just lose like all of them as one ring. But when you collect that one ring, you only have one ring. It's a little disappointing. Also, if you complete a stage with so many rings, you move on to the bonus stage. Also, they hid the Chaos Emeralds in the stages themselves. So just trying to figure out how to get to them is part of the challenge of the game. If you played it on the Game Gear, I believe it's the same game, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, one of my biggest gripes with this game is that when you jump, the screen always tends to follow you, so making some jumps are a leap of faith, and that's something that I can't agree with in video games. There should never be a leap of faith. You should know where you're gonna land every single time with ease, and that's just sort of bad programming. But this is a decent Sonic the Hedgehog title. Horizontal shooter time, and my pick is Submarine Attack. I think submarine games make for terrific gameplay, and Submarine Attack did not let me down. You have one shot that fires straight forward, and you have another shot that sort of has this upward arcing method to take out helicopters on the surface. Now, if you jump in this game and absolutely hate it, it's because you didn't play it long enough, because you have to pick up the little speed icon just so your sub has a little bit more maneuverability. Eventually, you'll even pick up an attack icon that lets your ship be a little bit stronger in your offensive. The H restores some health, and you'll be blowing up nearly everything and having a great time exploring different underwater caves and the surface. This is a terrific submarine experience. You'll be even having a showdown with Poseidon himself by the end of it. This also reminds me of the Sega Saturn game In the Hunt, because they both suffer from crippling slowdown. They're both sub-based games, and they're both fun to play if you know how to play them. Graphically, this definitely holds its own on the Sega Master System, and it is a terrific vertical shooter if you manage to get used to the controls. But the last game I want to talk about didn't get a US release. It's Penguin Adventure, a racing game where you race against the clock as a penguin collecting fish along the way. You might start off on some random section in Antarctica, you'll move through some caves, you'll go back to a snow level with some curves in the map as you run through. Watch out for pits to fall in and for things to run into, and it's super cute. This is also the sequel to a ColecoVision game called Arctic Adventure, and I absolutely loved it on that system, and I continue to love it on the Sega Master System. If you manage to get to the end of the level with plenty of time left, well, there might just be a boss battle waiting for you, or you have to break the ice and send this evil turtle into the water. Yeah! The game itself is long. It is frustrating at some points, but it is definitely a lot of fun. And that's why I love Penguin Adventure, and I love my Sega Master System, a truly underrated system. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it because the Sega Master System doesn't get that much love, and there was a crap ton of games for it because the console's lifespan was one of the hugest of any video game console. They were still making and producing and selling these in Brazil straight up to the Dreamcast's launch. That's how long of a life this little game console had. So picking up some of those weird Brazilian cards is something that I think everyone should have a blast doing if you happen to be a collector like myself. And if you think I missed out on some great Sega Master System games, let me know in the comment box down below. And until later, I will see you again, guys.